Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how I make Penne Alla Vodka. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am so excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. Today we are making one of my favorite dinner dishes. This is an indulgent dish that's actually super simple to make. It is restaurant quality and you can easily make it at home. You're really going to love this one, so go ahead and grab yourself a large pot and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn my stovetop to medium heat, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil and 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm using unsalted butter. You could use salted, it's not a huge amount, so the amount of salt's not gonna make a big difference. Now I'm going to let this butter melt and let this pan get nicely heated up. Once that pan is nicely warmed up, your butter's starting to sizzle a little bit, we can add our onion. I have a cup of finely chopped onion. If you don't want to measure it out, you can just use 1 medium to large sized onion. It's a yellow onion. Did I say a yellow onion? Though sometimes I will use a sweet onion if it's all I have. We're going to cook this onion in the butter and the oil until it's nicely softened. This usually takes about 5 minutes or so, sometimes a little less than that. And I'll just stir it occasionally so nothing burns to the bottom of the pot. All right, so once our onion's looking nice, we're going to add some minced garlic. This is a tablespoon, or a heaping tablespoon maybe, of minced garlic. Drop that in there. And we're going to cook this while stirring for about 30 seconds. You want the garlic to get nice and fragrant. Okay, after about 30 seconds, while your kitchen is smelling nice and garlicky, we're going to add our vodka, which is a key ingredient in today's recipe. I have 1/3 cup of vodka. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm just using Smirnoff brand today, which is what I use when I make vanilla extract too. We're just gonna drizzle this in, and we're going to cook this until it's been reduced by about half. The smell is gonna be really strong, so we're looking for this to reduce. It's a little steamy in here, sorry. This doesn't smell as nice as it did with the garlic, though maybe some of you will disagree with me on that. But when you're cooking, a lot of times you wanna go by smell and texture. You don't just want to go based off of, I don't want to say cook this for 5 minutes and you're done. So we're looking for it to reduce, but also when you get a whiff of the steam, it shouldn't smack you in the face of vodka smell. It should be a lot more subtle. It shouldn't be that super potent alcohol smell. And I'm scraping the bottom of the pan as I go, just in case anything has browned on the bottom of the pan. I want to get that worked in with the onions and garlic and everything. So the vodka is obviously a very important addition to today's recipe. And it's so important because what it does is it's going to give us a super velvety sauce, and it's going to give us a depth of flavor that you're not going to find in basically any other creamy tomato sauce that's made without alcohol. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. It doesn't smell super strongly of alcohol anymore, so we can add our next ingredients, starting with 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I'm gonna drop this in here, and I'm gonna start working this in, and I'm also going to add my spices. We're adding a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, that's just table salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and I'm also going to add just a pinch of crushed red pepper. I'm gonna add about a 1/4 teaspoon. For a spicier dish, you can up that to a 1/2 teaspoon, or you could just leave it out. Now I'm going to cook this for a couple minutes until it's nice and smooth. I wanna make sure that tomato paste has nicely worked in with the vodka, and I'm going to let it cook for a little bit before I go on to the next step. All right, next I have 28 ounces of whole peeled tomatoes. We are not going to drain these. I'm just gonna open them up, add them right into the pot. I'm going to break them up with my spoon as I'm cooking them. We'll break them up further in a minute with our immersion blender. I'm just gonna smash them a little bit and stir everything together. Some people like to break these up with their hands before they add them. You can certainly do that. Now, an equal amount of crushed tomatoes could be used as a substitute if that's all you have, but I really prefer the flavor that we get when we use whole tomatoes. All right, next we're going to add our cream. So you need 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of heavy cream for today's recipe. I know that's a very precise amount. I have tried this recipe with all different amounts of cream, and I found this was the best amount. 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons. I'm just gonna slowly drizzle it in. I know there are all sorts of things going into this sauce. We've got alcohol and tomatoes, which are very acidic, and then cream, which isn't, but it all comes together so nicely. This is seriously one of my favorite dishes, and there's not even any meat needed to give it such a great depth of flavor. Okay, so things are a little bit lumpy here, and we want a nice, smooth, and creamy sauce. So this is where your immersion blender is going to come into play. If you don't have one, you can transfer your sauce in batches if you need to a blender, and you can puree everything there. I'm going to use one of my favorite kitchen tools. I will link to this in the recipe description because I use this thing all the time. I really think everyone should have one. The cord doesn't quite reach, but we're gonna make it work. Okay, let's take a look at this. We still have a small bit of texture, I'm good with that, but we don't have any large lumps of tomato or onion remaining, which is just how I like it. We have a beautiful creamy orange sauce, but it's not done yet. So at this point, we're going to want to let this sauce simmer, and simmering is where the flavor is really going to develop. So don't skip this step if you can help it. I'll reduce my heat just a little bit, and I'll let this simmer for about 30 minutes. I'll stir it occasionally. While it is simmering, I am going to head over to my real stove because I'm not using my real stove right now, and I'm going to prepare this pasta. This is 1 pound of penne pasta. I'm going to prepare it according to package instructions in very well salted water. So now, one thing I want to note is my pasta has just finished cooking, but I haven't drained it yet. Before I drain it, I want to reserve about 1 cup of pasta water. Pasta water is great when you're adding pasta to a sauce and you want everything to combine beautifully and it's going to help us get that velvety sauce that we want. So I've reserved my pasta water. Now I'm gonna go ahead and drain this. So my pasta's cooked, it's drained, my sauce is finished simmering. So I'm just gonna add my noodles carefully into the sauce. I'm going to add just a splash, literally just a splash at this point, of my pasta water, just a little drizzle. And I'm also going to add 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. If you can do freshly grated Parmesan cheese, that's even better. We'll also be adding 2 tablespoons of fresh, finely sliced basil. And we'll stir everything together. We're gonna give that cheese a couple seconds to melt, let everything work nicely together, and then we can go ahead and serve. Now, if your sauce seems a little bit dry, you can always add additional pasta water. And one thing I like to do is if I have leftovers, I will hold on to this pasta water, and when I reheat this the next day on the stovetop, I'll just add a couple splashes of the pasta water. It helps keep things nice and smooth and creamy. Now, you'll always wanna taste test, make sure it's salty enough. If you ever feel like anything is lacking flavor, this is not, but if it were, it probably would just need an extra pinch of salt. This is looking pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and serve it. This just smells so good. I really can't wait for you guys to try this one. I actually perfected this recipe last year. I've been eating it so much, I can't believe it took me this long to share it with you. And that is how you make homemade penne alla vodka. This is restaurant quality. I think you're going to absolutely love it. And again, I can't wait for you to try it. Make sure to top yours with a little bit of extra grated parm, maybe a little bit of extra fresh basil, however you'd like it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe. And if you try this one, please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm definitely gonna burn my tongue on this, but oh well, I'll deal with that later. I'm not sharing this with anybody. This is all mine.